Vice President Moreno, Councilmember Thomas, Councilmember Green. With that, Councilmember Green moves for approval of the Budget Committee meeting minutes of January 11, 2024. Councilmember Thomas seconds. Seeing no opposition, the Budget Committee meeting minutes are approved unanimously. Mr. Hagman, will you come forward, please, to talk about these motions, M24, 75 through 79, and then I think what we'll do, if the committee's so inclined, is just do an in globo motion on all 5 of them. Good morning.
Good morning. The first item is a new job classification. I think it's motion, motion 75. It's for a new class for the fire department. It's called fire training instructor. This is to supplement the current training staff, which is in a class of fire educational officer. That's a class that's used basically their provisional fire captains. This would be a civilian position that would supplement that staff to help with the recruitment of needed instructors for the academy. Would have a pay grade of 72 with a hiring rate of $64,759. The second item is motion number 74. It's a new class for the airport. It would be airport janitorial supervisor. This would be a position that would essentially oversees the contracting janitorial staff at the airport to ensure that it's in effect that one of the top provided services for airports in the country. It would have a pay grade of 68. It would have a hiring rate of $48,665. It would be non-exempt. The third item is motion number 75. It's a pay grade adjustment for the class of zoning administrator. This is warranted because of the increase in the size and scope of the zoning program at Safety and Permits. And in this particular case, the present incumbent would see basically a 300% increase in current staff levels. It would raise the pay grade from pay grade 86 to pay grade 90. It would bring the annual hiring rate to $88,344. And as part of this, we would ensure that there would be a pay policy that would ensure that the current incumbent would receive the 10%, which is equivalent to the 4-grade adjustment. Motion number 76 is a grade change similar to the last one for the class of Council Utilities Regulatory Office.
That's 78.
Oh, 78. Oh.
Sorry, just want to make sure we have the record clear.
This would be at pay grade. The pay grade would increase from pay grade 102 to 104, which would bring the annual minimum salary to $107,770. And once again, there would be a pay policy to guarantee that the present incumbent would receive a 5% increase based on this 2-grade adjustment. The last one would be motion number 79, and this would be a new special rate of pay, which would be entitled retention pay of people in the executive service. This would be for individuals in a pay grade of 102 and above in a pay plan, and it would allow essentially the appointing authorities to adjust a person's salary up to 25%, and also in addition it would increase the salary range, which is basically indicative of relatively high-level, executive-level positions. And I'll be happy to answer any questions on these.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. Members, are there any questions on these? And obviously, I think we all know that you have to pay people in order to get them into the positions, and particularly looking at zoning administrator, we know how important that is to make sure that's taken care of in short order. So seeing no questions from the dais, I have no comment cards, and there's no online comment about these matters. I'll make an in globo motion on items A through E under item number 3.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Green. Seeing none opposed, it carries unanimously 3-0. All right, we'll go through the voting items next. Is the administration going to present on these? Yeah, on item number, I guess, 4 and 5. What I'll try and do is keep the ones that are the administration up first, and then we'll keep Sewage and Water Board bunched together too. So, all right, Mr. Large, you want to start with item number 4? And you're welcome to stand there at the table, whatever is your preference.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Item number 4 is ordinance calendars 34-537 and 34-538. These ordinances would amend our original operating and revenue budgets to increase our overall budget by $109,085,404 into the intergovernmental. And as you all know, we had some changes to the original budget, so this is to bring our budget back up in case we have grants and other new funding that comes in with those are for.
Can you just describe very briefly, because we even got an email yesterday that's like $109 million. What is that? So we understand, but if you can just give us.
And so anytime there's changes to the overall total of the budget, we would have to maybe pause and do a publication, let the citizens know. So there's a certain amount of money that was put into the original proposed budget, but during the process where that budget was amended, new grants were added, additional funding was added from special funds during that time, some fund balance projects. And so that decreased that amount. And that's money we pull from in the budget essentially without having to increase it. So that would decrease. That is not new money coming in, and it's not additional money being spent on anything. It's there. And normally it has to do a lot with new grant money that's coming in. Some of our hazard mitigation grants are very large and take up some of that funding as they come in throughout the year.
Okay. Thank you. Any comments from the dais? Seeing none. Mr. White, do you want to speak on this item or wait till number 21 at the end? Yes, sir. You can come speak now. Good morning.
Good morning. I wasn't certain if the $109 million also included the funding for the FY24 Judgment Fund. Is that included in that amount?
There's been no additional request at this time for an increase in that fund.
Oh, so only increases are in this amount?
It's just for this one area, and it's not accounted for yet. So it could be a grant, it could be a request to increase judgment, and so it would just decrease this amount. It allows us to make movement within the budget without having to go back out to publication and to have different hearings just to increase the total budget. So this money is going to just be placed and not be touched. It's not real, it's a placeholder in the budget.
I see. Okay, thank you for the clarification. Well, yeah, we're here just to support the city providing a budget for the administration, and I think one issue as far as the judgment fund is concerned, when we spoke to the law department earlier this year, there was some indication that there was some uncertainty of the funding, the timing of funding for the judgments, and I just wanted to voice my concern and support for funding the administration in that area, and I'll save my comments for 21.
Yeah, Mr. White, let me just say this. Knowing that this has been an issue, my staff met yesterday with council staff to start working on this internally because it's not entirely clear to us what the delay is. We're hearing that some people have been awarded judgments, but they seem to be held up in finance or other things. And if we have to codify to understand, and just like on invoicing, to make it clear that things have to be paid within a certain period of time, we're going to do that. The next discussion is with the law department and finance to make sure that we understand. And candidly, if we're like another few $1 million away from paying the whole judgment list, I would advocate that we put at some point money in there so we can use a formula and be at zero at some point later this year. So that's what we're working on right now.
Wow. Well, I really appreciate that. And I've been before the council for a while, for a few times, and forgive me for my many emails and everything. The one concern that I had, and the process has been working well, and I'm very happy that this council is taking charge and being responsive to the issue. What concerned me was when I reached out to the law department early January, and they said that no judgments had been paid since August. And there's ample funds, you know. Right. There's ample funds there. And although we only have one judgment, there are almost 500 judgments on the list. And if you have the funds, I couldn't understand why it couldn't be paid. And
again, I think that's part of the issue of it goes from law to finance, and finance has to fund, and we're trying to just make sure that process is more seamless.
I can appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, I've moved for approval on item number 4.
Second.
Seconded by, it's all right.
Second.
It's been double seconded. Waiting on one more yay. Four yays, no nays. We'll move to item number 5.
Ordinance calendar numbers 34,575 and 34,576. These ordinances would amend our original operating and revenue budgets. Is entitled, an ordinance providing an operating budget of revenues and expenditures for the City of New Orleans for 2024 to appropriate funds to the Chief Administrative Office to support Canal Street Algiers Ferry operations in 2024. The amount of this request is for, this ordinance, is for $3 million.
Thank you. I know there's an online comment, Ms. Spears.
Yes, the one online comment is from K. Brad Ott, who is not a paid representative. And K. Brad Ott says, thank you for supporting full funding for Canal Street / Algiers Ferry operating funding for 2024.
Okay. I'll move for approval. Second by Councilmember Green. 4 yeas, no nays. All right, Mr. Large, item number 6.
Ordinance calendars 35,577 and 34,578. These will amend the original budgets as well to appropriate additional capital outlay funds awarded by the State of Louisiana Facility Planning and Control Board, FP&C, to the Chief Administrative Office for Sewage and Water Board Power Plant, project number 50 ML3 1802, in the amount of $15 million.
I've moved for approval. Second by Councilmember Green. 4 yeas, no nays. All right, Mr. Large, item number 7.
Ordinance calendar number 34,579. This is to amend looks like the expenditure budget. This is our intergovernmental, a transfer between safety and permits and code enforcement for the Centralized Adjudication Bureau. And this is, the money was originally placed in the safety and permits and it's moving over to code enforcement. $300,000 to personnel and the balance of $100,000 to other operating.
Great. I've moved for approval. Seconded by Councilmember Moreno. Waiting on one more. No worries. 4 yeas, no nays. All right, item number 8.
Ordinance calendar numbers 34,580 and 34,581 to amend the original operating and revenue budgets to provide an appropriate grant funds to the Health Department for emergency medical services to purchase computers, virtual reality headsets required for VR training, and pre-hospital ultrasound machines in the amount of $73,878.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, I'll move for approval. Second by Councilmember Green. 4 yeas, no nays. Item number 9.
Ordinance calendar number 34,582 and 34,583. Again, amending the original operating and revenue budgets to appropriate grant funds to the Department of Health for emergency medical services to hire and train a New Orleans EMS project coordinator, 3 outreach coordinators for Odyssey House, and to purchase 350 Narcan kits. This grant is in the amount of $1,261,771.
Great. It's been moved by Councilmember Moreno, seconded by Councilmember Green. 4 yeas, no nays. Item number 10.
Ordinance calendar numbers 34,584 and 34,585. This will provide a budget of revenue and expenditures to appropriate grant funds to the Health Department for EMS to purchase rescue equipment in the amount of $55,503. Again, this is a grant as well.
All right, I'll move for approval. seconded by Councilmember Moreno. Four yeas, no nays. All right. Next item.
Ordinance calendar numbers 34,586 and 34,587 to appropriate revenue and expenditures to appropriate State Act 397 funds to the Office of the Mayor for the Office of Youth and Families, Pathways, and Parent Leadership Training in the amount of $800,000.
All right. Councilmember Moreno has moved for approval, seconded by Councilmember Green. Four yeas, no nays. Item number 12.
Ordinance calendar numbers 34,588 and 34,589. This is to appropriate funds to the Office of the Mayor for Advancing Cities Initiative to support growth in the blue and green infrastructure sector through workforce and economic development in the amount of $128,000.
All right. I'll move for approval, seconded by Vice President Moreno. Four yeas, no nays.
Ordinance calendar numbers 34,590 and 34,591. This is to appropriate funds to the Chief Administrative Office and to the Police Department for the Supplemental Police Patrol Program in the amount of $4,142,371 coming from the French Quarter Development District Fund.
Okay. I'll move for approval, seconded by Councilmember Green. That was item number 13. Four yeas, no nays. All right. I think this is the last one for you, Ms. DeLarge. Item number 14.
Thank you. Ordinance calendar numbers 34,593 and 34,594 to appropriate unspent funds for the purchase of vehicles in fiscal year 2023 to the Chief Administrative Office in the amount of $25 million.
Move for approval, second by Councilmember Green. Three yeas, no nays. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Large.
And we will report all of these favorably out of committee to council meeting on Thursday. Because of deadline issues, they can't go on the consent agenda. All right, next up are the items, three separate ones from Sewage and Water Board resolutions. And I know there's some representatives, both bond counsel and from Sewage and Water Board, who are here. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Sorry, I'm stuck on the.
It's all right. We did that on purpose.
So, apologize.
No sweat. All right. So the first item up is Resolution 2482. And obviously, we want to support the revenue bonds. We do want to know, given particularly the next two are pretty large, generally what their purposes are and how they'll serve the residents.
Sure. Glad to help. Jason Akers with Foley Newdell. We serve as bond counsel. Normally with me, Maria Ozan is our co-bond counsel. She is out of town this week. However, also with us.
Hi, Gray Lewis, CFO, Sewage and Water Board, New Orleans.
The first resolution for your approval is approving not exceeding $5 million of sewage service revenue bonds of the city through Sewage and Water Board. This is to fund the smart metering project that is ongoing throughout the city. This is part of the capital stack that will be included, and you'll actually hear about that in the next resolution as well. This is a low-interest state revolving loan fund loan with an all-in rate of 0.95% fixed for a 20-year period, and it also carries a $500,000 forgiveness portion, which means that as that money is advanced, it will be forgiven by the revolving loan fund. Never bears interest, never is subject to repayment.
Okay. Members, before we vote, I just want to note two things. First, in my view, the council has, I think Mr. Akers always voted on the bond issuances since I've seen you here anyway.
Yes.
And that's because we know that you can't starve Sewage and Water Board and expect it to be able to do the work that's supposed to do. I will also be offering Mr. Lewis at this meeting to be introduced the $5 million that is supposed to be paid under fair share to Sewage and Water Board as well. That is supposed to be an annual agreement, and for whatever reason, it didn't get codified a couple of years ago, and the administration and the council want to fix that oversight and make sure that that dedication is there. My bottom line view is that every time we approve bonds, rate hikes, fees, increases, we're looking for accountability and transparency and asking Sewage and Water Board to show their work. That gives taxpayers the comfort of knowing where their dollars and how they will be spent, and trust that that's ensuring how the city's assets are spent. I would just make sure, Mr. Akers, please, for the next two items, that you give us the same level of detail, or Mr. Lewis, because I think people want to know how their money's being spent, and having that public discussion to ensure that they understand how, even if this isn't coming out of directly their pockets and it's bond issuance, that people understand the bang for the buck they're getting.
Sure.
So I will move to approve. Seconded by Councilmember Green. 4 yeas, no nays. All right, on to the next one, Resolution 2483.
Yeah, thank you. Let me note also, just as a general matter for all three of these resolutions, these are to be paid out of existing revenues and existing rates. These do not carry rate increases associated with them, just for clarity there. The second resolution deals with not exceeding $90 million of water revenue bonds. These are to be paid solely and exclusively out of the revenues generated by the Sewage and Water Board's water system. This is actually this is a preliminary approval, so this will come back to you again before final approval, and probably in several months. But this actually has two different parts to it. The first part is approximately $85 million, which is going to go for lead service line replacements in the city. Part of the IIJA adopted by Congress a few years ago included a $15 billion pool of funds to be paid out to the various state revolving loan funds over a 5-year period that would go to fund lead service line replacements within the various municipalities. To our knowledge, this is the first application that's been submitted in the state of Louisiana to the LDH revolving loan fund for lead service line replacements. The program is very advantageous. It actually carries 49% forgiveness, so 49% of that $85 million will be forgiven once advanced, meaning that it never bears interest and it is never subject to repayment. The remaining 51% has a 0% interest associated with it. So while it will be repaid over a 20-year period, it will be repaid at 0% interest. The remaining $5 million of this $90 million approval is for again, the water metering project, the smart metering project that will, as part of the capital stack to replace all meters throughout the city over a revolving period. It will be the smart meters that will enhance the readability and the ability for homeowners or business owners, whoever the customers are, to determine if they have leaks on their side of the line and what have you. I'm probably not the best person to explain the metering project, but that's my best shot at it.
Any questions? I mean, I think we all agree that infrastructure improvements, including replacing lead lines, and I think Mr. Akers, 49% of $85 million being completely forgiven, and then 51% at 0% is essentially free money. So we should take advantage of that.
Exactly.
All right, move for approval. Seconded by Councilmember Moreno. 4 yeas, no nays. And then the last resolution, Mr. Akers and Mr. Lewis, R2486.
So this is actually approving not exceeding $38,948,200 of sewage service revenue bonds. It's a very unusual number, but this is the amount of the commitment that's been offered by DEQ. This is another state revolving loan fund issue specific for the sewer program. Interestingly, this is kind of out of order on the agenda. We expect this issue to close before the $5 million, which is why it's part of the 10th supplemental resolution, and the $5 million was the 11th supplemental resolution. Just from a numbering perspective, wanted you to be aware of that. This funding will go to address concerns and issues and repair and maintain, repair the wastewater treatment plant that flooded during Hurricane Ida. This is, I think, a very needed project for the sustainability of that wastewater treatment plant moving forward. This also is the low interest 0.95% fixed for a 20-year period, and it carries $1.1 million of forgiveness associated with it. And that 1.1, same as the last forgiveness that we discussed, will be immediately forgiven when drawn and will not be subject to repayment.
All right, so, Mr. Akers, as we sit here in March, right now, Sewage and Water Board is bonding out for new projects or doing additional work close to $135 million.
I think that's yes.
It's 133, 948, 200 if we want to use like exact math.
That does not include the projects that are ongoing, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I move to approve. Second by Councilmember Moreno. 4 yeas, no nays. Do you have a comment, Councilmember Green?
I do want to comment on what you said, because I think that when people see rainstorms such as yesterday, they think that nothing is being done with the Sewage and Water Board. And the Sewage and Water Board can tell its own story. But I had an opportunity to, this morning, be on a radio show, and I just emphasized to our citizens that no one is doing nothing. No one is doing nothing. There is something that is going on to address the needs that we have. We also, at this meeting today, approved the $15 million for the electrical substation. So there are some good things that are going on out there, and I just encourage the public to ask questions, to not allow social media, and even sometimes what a headline is, dictate to you and think that nothing is being done to improve the situation, to enhance the quality of the systems that are being, that are providing us with the service that we need. So it was just basically an aside to say that today's meeting is very symbolic of the fact, as we see these monies being spent, that money is being spent to enhance our infrastructure. It's just that there's a lot to be done. That's all.
Thank you. Councilmember Thomas.
Interesting having to substantiate or convince the public of what everyone's trying to do to create a better system. But as you were talking, Councilmember Green, I was thinking about an early 1990 effort, I think it was, where Councilman Giarrusso, your grandfather, Jim Singleton, I think it was Harold Gorman, Joe Sullivan, and others, put forth a drainage renewal. And what would the system be like had that drainage renewal been approved? And for those of us who remember, I was just kind of like a young pup back then. I wasn't elected, but we watched the business community raise several $100,000 to defeat that drainage renewal. So even when the board, in its best attempt to deal with flooding and drainage, put forth measures, and institutional knowledge and historical knowledge is always important to me because it's convenient how folk are disparaging and have lapse in memories when, even though many of the agencies are not perfect, but when this board and the community and the business community specifically had an opportunity to support a renewal, not a new millage, not a new tax, they defeated it. So, Councilmember Green, what would the system be like or look like now, Councilmember Giarrusso, if those millions of dollars over the last several decades had gone into drainage renovation, restoration, and innovation? So, guys, I think that's important to remind people of those things that happened in the past and who the players were, especially when you talk about laying blame for where we are now.
Councilmember Green.
And Councilman Thomas reminded me of something that I also wanted to say. Yesterday's stories on flooding included some stories from Jefferson Parish. There was a reporter in Jefferson Parish reporting on flooding there. Jefferson Parish has agreed to increase rates for the next 20 years to address infrastructure shortfalls, infrastructure issues that they admit should have been addressed years ago. This is not an opportunity for me to just say that nothing is wrong here and things are wrong and we need to address them. But I just want to say on a positive note, and just as Councilman Thomas says, at the end of the day, the public
and the business community have got to recognize that some things are going on, and that when we have an issue such as Councilman Thomas talked about, that there's no vast conspiracy to deny or to just tax people and get nothing done. The bottom line is that we have serious infrastructure needs, but if you want to see serious infrastructure needs, look at our neighboring parishes. Look at St. Tammany Parish, which has raw sewage going out for thousands of houses there. Look at the flooding that takes place in Jefferson Parish, which was highlighted on yesterday evening. I hope that even as a region, we can come together and talk about some regional cooperation to go and get the resources that are needed from the state, which has a $51 billion budget and depends on this region so much for the generation of funds, that while we're looking, and I say this to the governor, for whom I have great respect, he was elected by the citizens, but if we're going to have a task force to look at the Sewage and Water Board, let's look at the region. Let's look at what we can do as a region to make our sewer systems and drainage systems house the increases in population that are going on and address those things that are caused by some things that are out of our control. So as we move forward with the Sewage and Water Board review that is taking place, that doesn't involve this city council, doesn't involve this mayor, let's make that report reflective of reality and look at the region and see what we need to do in the region. It is not just the Sewage and Water Board. It is not just the city of New Orleans. There are issues that in other parishes are much more severe than we have here. I can't imagine that we would have raw sewage going into ditches anywhere in Orleans Parish and not have the DEQ on our backs every day. So there's a lot that we are doing, and I just hope that we can look at the need to put aside any politics. Let's look at the region and see what this region can do, these 10 parishes can do to go and get the money that we need to address some of our concerns. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Akers and Mr. Lewis, just to put a fine point on this, the board met yesterday to approve these resolutions, is that right?
Yes.
And then we voted today. What are the next steps to final approval?
I believe you will advance to council on Thursday?
Correct.
Correct?
Yes, absolutely.
And then Board of Liquidation will approve, will meet and vote on March 20th for the two sewer revenue bonds. Those have already gone through State Bond Commission. These are for final approval. The water revenue bonds is a preliminary approval. So after Board of Liquidation, assuming it approves, it will then go to State Bond Commission. And then when we get ready to move forward with closing, which depends on a lot of factors outside of our control, but when we're ready to move forward with closing, it'll come back through the same process, Sewage and Water Board, City Council, and Board of Liquidation for final approval.
Got it. All right. I think that is it on Sewage and Water Board. Thank you all very much for being here, as well as other members of Sewage and Water Board. We appreciate the explanation you earlier gave about how the funds will be used. The next item on the agenda is...
Was there a vote? Did I miss the vote?
Did we not, Donna, did we not take the vote on, on 17? We did.
All right. Okay.
I got
just making sure. Thank you.
You got it. All right. So with that, we will move to executive session. Depends on how long everybody talks. Depends on how everybody talks. All right. I'll move to go into executive session. Second by Councilmember Moreno. 4 yeas, no nays. All right. I apologize for the delay, but we had a number of legal matters we needed to take up. I'll move to come out of executive session. Second by Councilmember Moreno. 3 yeas.
Councilman Thomas votes yes.
Yeah. All right. We got 3 yeas. So we'll get back to the regular agenda now. Item number 19. Yep, that's you, Ms. Villavasso. And I guess if Mr. Barbino is still here, I know we were delayed. Thank you for your patience.
we go. Oh, you got it? Yeah.
Good morning, whenever you're ready.
All right,
Sure.
Good morning, good morning. Thank you, first of all, for inviting us to meet with you guys to talk about the importance of funding the summer employment program. I think with the funds that we received last year and hopefully the same amount of funds that we will receive this year, it shows the city's commitment to our youth. So we'll start with page 3 in our presentation, the Mayor Summer Youth Employment Program. The Mayor Summer Youth Employment Program provides quality summer experiences that build a pipeline to career opportunities for local youth ages 16 to 24. The premise and the focus of the Summer Employment Program is to expose participants to careers of interest with the intention of creating a career-ready workforce. Youth will earn while they gain valuable experience to define their career goals. And I also want to say, too, the mission and the vision of the Office of Workforce Development is just that, right? But at its core, our objective is to engage, educate, and empower our youth. And we do that by providing them with information needed to understand the resources and services that are available to them, which also gives them access. And information plus access equals opportunities. And that's what our youth are starving for, right? Opportunities. So we have 3 different components to the Mayor Summer Employment Program. We have our traditional youth, we have intern NOLA, which is for college students, and we have our Work and Learn program in partnership with a lot of the Upward Bound programs in the city of New Orleans. And for clarity, Upward Bound programs, they're designed to cater to first generation and low income participants.
Can I ask this question?
Yes.
Will all the kids be paid like on a weekly basis, like on Friday, checkbook out, Joe Geruso, signed, City of New Orleans?
So it's going to be every 2 weeks.
Okay, but every 2 weeks?
Every 2 weeks,
All right,
yes.
great, thank you.
Yes. And so, of course, we're going to get to those challenges we had last year. And, of course, we met with all of the departments, too. I think when I came before you guys in August of last year in the heat of all the craziness that was happening around the students getting paid, we talked about the 3 different systems that were at stake here and at play. And what we did as a result of that, we came together and made sure that we each tighten up our ship and our programs to ensure that we started with the fall where we had no issues with paying the youth. And so now we're scaling the program to ensure that this summer, if funded for 1,000 youth, we don't have any issues. So what are the benefits of the program? The program has several potential benefits, including helping young people tee up for college, the workforce. We also teach financial literacy. We provide income support through paid work, enhance educational outcomes and attendance, and give participants a sense of identity and competency. Research also states, through the City of New Orleans Health Department, we've been working with Dr. Avegno to collect the data to show that these programs are needed and they work. And so we're in the process of trying to get that data to show, because we are invested in our youth and providing them with opportunities, that decreases the crime rate. Again, utilizing workforce development as a strategy to mitigate the issues that we as a city not only are dealing with, but the nation, to cut back on the public safety and the public health issues that we're facing. And also, some of our youth help with the household. So focusing on the unhoused issues as well. In 2021, which we were in the height of the pandemic, we served only 388 students. In 522. Last year, with your support of $2.1 million, we served over 1,000 participants. In 2024, with the allocation we currently have, we can only serve 350. So I'm hoping that with the $2.1 million, we can get back up to last year level. And I would be remiss to say, let me introduce my team. Carmen McKinley, she's the Director of Youth Initiatives. And then we have some young blood to our team, which we felt like we needed. We have Summer Lewis, who just started with us, so we're excited about what she's going to bring to the table. And I also want to thank them for putting this PowerPoint together while I'm all over the place dealing with workforce issues. So wanted to say that and acknowledge our great team. The Mayor's Summer Youth Employment Program, some of the challenges that we identified: application material errors, the information provided by the parent guardian on the application contained errors or incomplete information. And then two, on our end, the manual data entry process from paper application to Excel files resulted in an error with the youth's information. And what we mean by that is, you know, when we're taking information that from their paper and pencil application, sometimes we interpret an E and it should be an I, and A and it should be an E. So with going to, which I'll talk to about some of the strategies we put into place, we're having the parents input the email, the information in on an electronic application, and then it's converted into an Excel spreadsheet for finance that it should contain all of the information they need to ensure that our participants are going to get paid in a timely manner and according to the cadence that they should be paid, being that this is workforce development, taxes are being taken out of, and so we have to pay the kids on a cadence. There were banking information errors, which was the biggest pain point from last year. The routing or account number provided by the parent guardian was incorrect, and the bank accounts, some bank accounts had been closed. Other issues that we faced: payments sent by the city to the correct bank account were never received by the recipient. Worksite providers did not provide timesheets, which that's an Office of Workforce Development issue that we have corrected. So we put in some checks and balances with that for the fall, where we had someone from the Office of the Career Coaches to call daily to those employer providers to ensure that the students were there, verifying their hours. And so then we do a reconciliation by the end of the week to show that the timesheet that was submitted to us also matches what we had in the office. Solutions. We're not going to accept incomplete applications. 2024 application is streamlined and available online to complete and submit to reduce human error. C&O Finance Department will issue paper checks to eliminate payroll errors and prevent delays. Build a centric and sustainable summer youth employment program through staff hire, training, community, and partner engagement. Establish deadlines for timesheets to be received in a timely manner for processing from worksite providers, and mandatory orientation for participants to receive vital information pertinent to their worksite assignment and payroll priorities. Over the fall, interns collectively worked over 13,553 hours. We served 142 youth. Participants earned over $300,000 thanks to the City of New Orleans program and were paid on time. 100% of the worksite providers felt the fall internship experience was meaningful for students. It ran efficiently and would recommend it to other students. And we have an employer partner who benefited from the program in the audience today, Mr. Perry Scholes. He's here to support us, to hope that we receive the $2.1 million of funding. 100% of the interns said they will return to the program fall or summer if available. The application process. We've gone to an online application. It was launched on Tuesday, February 20th. We have in-person on-site registration. It's via appointment. And the students and the parents come in on Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays at our new location at 1307 Aretha Castle Haley Boulevard. And from 4:30 to 6:30, it began on February 26th. It will conclude on March 27th. The last day to complete an online application will be March 24th. Applicants must have all the required documentation to complete the registration process at the time of the scheduled appointment. And the application link is posted on the department's website through the City of New Orleans website, and additional media coverage will capture the registration dates and for the public. Also, too, in partnership with our IT department, once the applications are completed, it's converted to an Excel spreadsheet. And it contains all of the information that the finance department stated that they need in order to successfully pay those participants. And on page 11, you have the program timeline. On page 9, we also have the payroll dates in conversation with the finance department. Everyone should have all of their information in on April 5th in order to be paid, June 25th? However, if we receive the additional funds, that gives us another stop date of May 15th. They could start on June 3rd, but the pay date would be on the second pay period. And so we're going to have further conversations around that to see if the finance department would be a little bit more flexible with that. And so with that, that concludes our presentation, and we're open for any questions, which I'm quite sure you guys have.
Good. Councilmember Moreno.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us, Ms. Villavaso, you and your team. As you know, I've been having many conversations with you and also with Mr. Barabino on some of the requirements needed to apply for a youth summer job. I know we've had this conversation that it shouldn't be harder to apply for a youth summer job with the City of New Orleans than it is to get hired at McDonald's, right?
Yes.
And so what I'm looking at is, and first it's a budget question, and this is going to be applicable, and I'll explain why. Are there any CDBG dollars being utilized for the Youth Summer Jobs Program that you operate?
Yes, they give us $100,000 each year, and because it's a federal program and they require, a lot of documentation, we channel those funds to our interns, which are college students. They are more likely to have the documents needed by the federal government than the general public.
So I certainly can understand, and also talking with Mr. Barabino on some of the camp requirements too, why in that pool for the interns, you would need the additional documentation that is required by the federal government, as far as like having the kind of the income verification, the proof of income, for that, like, that's only for the interns, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if you're applying for another job, you're not going to need that, correct?
No. With the general funds, you don't need that.
Right, and so I just wanted to make sure that that's super clear in the application process, that you don't need to come in with your proof of funds, that's no longer necessary. The other thing too is you're asked to provide a birth certificate and an ID. Why can't you just provide an ID?
So we pose that question to the state who monitors this program, and that's one of their requirements, that they have to have a report card and a student ID. But I'll punt, and I forward you that
Yeah, the
information,
report
but I'll
card.
punt.
I think on the, like, I've had conversations with workforce too. I'm talking about it's talking about applicants need a birth certificate or a birth card, and they also need a current ID.
I guess to establish that they're in school. That was the purpose for that, especially if they're under 18, or they have to establish that they're in school.
Right.
For a work permit.
But this
At least that's what she informed me of.
Yeah, I mean, I think, what if you're just graduating and you're not sure about your future plans, but you'd still like a summer youth program? or a youth job, or maybe you've been out of school for a year or so, but you'd still like to apply, are you saying you're not going to be able to apply if you don't have a recent report card?
I think at the age of 18, you don't need a work permit. This is for a work permit is for students, and those requirements are for students who are under the age of 18. So that technically they're minors.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing, I'm just looking through what's posted online as far as what you need, and I'm like literally on your website. Like, I'm reading what is saying that is required. So I think, this could be intimidating if, I'm just trying to go get a job, I'm, maybe out of school a year, and I'm just trying to get out there, and if I'm seeing I've got to bring in a report card and, a birth certificate that maybe my mom has, and, and maybe I can't get a hold of a family member that's got a birth certificate, but I've got an ID, and I've got my social security card, and I'd really like the opportunity to work with the city. And once again, it's not the internship, it's an actual paying job, that I think whatever we can do to make sure that this application process is clear and that everyone understands what you really need to provide, I think would be really helpful. Because right now, this list is kind of all over the place.
Okay.
And I'm happy to, if you'd like help with narrowing that down, but in talking to workforce, they were saying that some of these additional things are not something that they're putting on the city. Yeah. And like I said, I get it on the CDBG dollars. I've talked to Mr. Barabino. Thank you for all the information that you provided on the summer camp, as well as to why you need proof of income on the summer camps, due to the fact that they're fully funded by CDBG dollars. So I get that piece. But these are general fund dollars, and therefore, I think whatever we can do to make sure that it's like you've got an ID, a social security card, let's roll. Let's get you hired.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And like I said, for those who have been out of school for a year or two, if they're under the age of 18, unfortunately, we have to have something in place because they're technically minors. But if they're not minors and they've been out of
because the
school,
program goes all
they
the way up
don't
to
need exactly.
My thing is the program goes all the way to age 24.
Yes.
And so that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, well, they don't need anything insinuating or stating that because they're adults by then.
100%, I'm hearing you, but the website says differently.
So what we'll do, and so what we can do, go back and look at it to see where the confusion is and clarify our writing, and make it more concise.
Yep.
And so that people interpretation could,
I think super easy. Under the age of 18, here's your stuff.
Yes.
Over the age of 18, here's your stuff.
Okay.
And then just make it as simple as possible that way.
Thank you.
Thanks. Councilmember Thomas?
I think any effort to clear up the language to make it easier. I mean,
Yes.
the law and the statutes have been clear for a long time about who needs a work permit and who doesn't, but to make it easier, especially given some of the challenges we've had with IU. I just want to thank you for yesterday evening and with the military.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you for
Tuskegee
attending.
Airmen, to be involved in efforts like that, as well as seeing you on Saturday mornings with the work groups about how people get involved. It's very rarely that even when I'm in meetings when you're not around, I hear people talking about, especially community groups, their efforts with you and businesses with workforce development. So just to thank you, I think we're working on some exciting stuff to include more people, create more opportunities for jobs, and to develop more workforce. So this is just an opportunity for me to thank you, not just for last night and those other weekend meetings, right? When you could be at home, but you're actually out there with young kid delinquents, juveniles, and companies. I see it starting to have an impact on them. So thank you guys for that.
Thank you. And we'll be working with Dr. Vagno to get that data. So.
Councilmember Green, anything from you?
You see, I was going to be able to be silent, but now you put me under pressure. I just want to say I appreciate the work that you did last summer, putting those youth to work, and we had a young person in our office, and she was gainfully employed during that summer and wants to be involved with government. So for people who are watching, let's keep focusing on the positives that, there might be a little story here or there, but at the end of the day, over 1,000 youth were served and served very well and got into our community And who knows why some of the things that are happening in our city are happening now in terms of crime reduction and other things like that, maybe increased investment. But one of the reasons may be that I think people feel that we are committed, as we've shown in other respects, even with our culture and recreation fund, that we're committed to the youth of our city of New Orleans. And I'm looking forward to seeing the success this summer, too.
Anything else from workforce development?
No, I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity, but also, if I had my shameless plug, is that we continue to fund this program at this level. My counterparts across the nation, they're investing heavily of city dollars into programs like this, and it shows that this program works. Another thing is our depth and breadth from our seat is much deeper and wider than most, if not all, the youth organizations out there. So continuing to fund us at this amount, 2.1, I think it would be extremely beneficial for us all.
Well, if you're not wagging your tail, somebody else is, especially these days. So thank you for what you do. Councilmember Giarrusso is doing an interview. If you guys are finished, I think the next item on the agenda is the New Orleans Recreation Department. He's back.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Barabino?
No votes?
Thank you. Ms. Vilavasso and team, we appreciate it. Thank you. All right. And Ms. DeLarge, Mr. Cooper et al., my plan is not to keep you very long on the last item. So if there's anything you want to highlight for us on item 21, we'll accept that. But I know this is interim and subject to Mr. White's comments about judgment. Thank you all. All right, good morning. Still, barely. Thank you for your patience.
Yes, good morning. I am going to allow Johanna Cannon-Brightman, the Chief Programming Officer of NOAA, to present the presentation.
Good morning, Council. Thanks for having us. This morning, we're going to present the different team programs that NORD have throughout the entire year, actually. One thing we have done is we have coined them as teen stipend-based programs because the programs that we're going to discuss, all three of them have the opportunities for teens to earn a stipend. That include our spring and fall teen internships, our teen career camps, as well as our teen sports challenge. Just a quick overview, NORD stipend-based teen programs are designed to provide teens with the opportunities to gain valuable academic, cultural, and professional experiences to cultivate responsible, well-rounded, career-ready youth, all while earning a stipend. Our programs begin at the beginning of the year where we have our spring internships. Teens are able to earn a $450 stipend for the 6-week program. Our spring program has started on yesterday, March 4th, and it will go through April the 16th. We will also have the same program in the fall, which will begin October 16th through November 25th. These programs, again, provide meaningful internship opportunities for our teens 13 to 17. Teens participate and explore academic, athletic, aquatics, and cultural enrichment through hands-on experiences while learning the many careers that are offered at NORD. So our teens right now that are currently in the program, they learn to operate our fitness center. They assist the public with that. They also understand and check guests in. They understand our rec track system. One of our most notable programs and most attractive is our junior lifeguard programs where teens are learning the skills to become certified lifeguards. We also have our participants are understanding from the athletic side what it is to be a coach. They understand those skills. They also understand the different facets of the different sports we have. So we're really excited about that. The skill that we provide, the curriculums for them also through entrepreneurship as well as soft skills job development. For this spring, the payment timelines, participants will receive one stipend payment at the end of the 6 weeks. The estimated pay dates, we are appreciative of our team in finance who have worked with us to create very aggressive timelines to ensure that all teens are paid on time. The program will end on April the 16th, and they will receive their payment in early May. Same thing with the fall, very aggressive timeline. At the end of 6 weeks, our participants will receive their one-time $450 stipend as well in mid-December. This is also contingent just upon NORD submitting all of the required documentation on time to finance. We have already met our very first timeline, which is to submit all of the documentation to finance. So we're very optimistic that we have put several things in place to make sure that that teens are paid on time and that documentation is received. Moving forward to Teen Career Camp. For Teen Career Camp is offered to ages 13 to 15, where they have career exploration and job preparation skills, as well as financial literacy and character development. Teens attend camp daily from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. They receive breakfast, lunch, and field trips, and teens earn a stipend of $30 per day over a 6-week period. The maximum amount of the stipend will be $450 if campers attend each day. And that's going to take place from June 3rd through July 12th. For Teen Career Camp, we will host 1,000 teens. The maximum amount of the stipend is $450. The application was released on February 20th, along with the Mayor's Summer Youth Employment application. And to date, we have already received 485 online applications. The payment timelines, participants will receive 2 stipend payments. The first payment will be for the first 3 weeks of camp, which is June 3rd through June 21st. We will submit all payroll documentation to finance on June 24th by noon, and they are estimated to receive their first check early July, between that very first week of July. For the second payment, for the second 3 weeks of camp from June 24th through July 12th, again, we will submit that documentation to finance within 1 week, and their pay date will be late July. We also have another program for teens, Teen Sports Challenge, where teens have the opportunity to participate in a 6-week program that is focused on character development, mentorship, conflict resolution, while playing 5-on-5 basketball, 7-on-7 flag football, or volleyball. We estimate 600 teens will be allowed to participate in this program. Participants will receive 1 stipend payment. That payment will be estimated mid-August. The program ends on July 19th. For a second, I want to discuss some of the challenges we had last year, similar to those that were mentioned by Ms. Valavaso. One challenge we had was incomplete applications. We also had some partners that allowed campers to attend the program without an application, and therefore they submitted time attendance sheets, but we did not have the information needed to pay them. We also had several with missing direct deposit information in their applications, as well as several closed bank accounts, which allowed finance to reject those payments. And so what we have done to make sure that we do not have those challenges, we've started accepting applications 1 month earlier than we did last year. We also will not accept any incomplete applications. We also have created pre-populated timesheets so that all of our partners are only receiving timesheets for those students who are fully registered. We also have an electronic application submission, as well as electronic attendance submission, so that we can reduce human error. Finally, all participants will receive paper checks so that we can reduce any of the challenges that we've had due to closed bank accounts. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. I mean, the only small question I have is the 1 stipend payment instead of every 2 weeks like OCD is doing. Is it because the amount is small? I'm just trying to figure out if people are working for 6 weeks, why 1 as opposed to every 2?
So first, Councilman, they're not working.
Okay.
Again, it's programs, it's camps. So during the summer, they're receiving 2 stipend payments.
Okay.
Coming during the summer months, it was 1 But during the summer months for camps, it's 2 payments that they'll receive. They'll receive one in early July, and they'll receive one in late July. Right. But when it comes to the internship programs, the internships are after-school programs. It's in spring and fall. And also during the summer months, it's 6 weeks for the kids that's participating in a sports challenge. And so we found it to be easier to do the one paycheck at the end of the internship as well as the summer spring challenge. And we made sure that during the summer months that those that are attending the teen camps, they will receive the 2 stipend payments.
Okay. All right. Councilmember Green?
No, I just find it interesting, and I haven't looked at your application, but you're only paying with paper checks, so you don't need now bank information from anybody?
Correct.
Right, that's interesting.
Yeah, because that was part of the big challenge was because, one, the teams had to have their own bank account open. They couldn't use their parents' bank account. They couldn't use a Cash App account. They had to have their own bank account open, which meant they had to keep money in there so the account didn't close. And those were some of the challenges that we faced is that sometimes the bank accounts were closed and the city would send the direct payment there, and we wouldn't know that they didn't receive the direct payment until the parents would inform us. And secondly, again, like I said, the one was that the bank accounts were closed, and secondly, it would go to the wrong accounts, and the city would not send the money to an account that wasn't the kid's account.
You know what you're going to hear this year, of course, that they couldn't go and cash the checks. Yeah. So just look, for the public, just be prepared. It was done for the purpose of helping the young people. And yes, it is going to be incumbent upon them that I think you can go to your bank and talk to your bank, and if it's your child, they may allow you to cash it or do something to your account. But it's done in the interest of making sure that everybody gets their check. But I'm telling you what's going to happen at the end of the session.
Absolutely.
All right, but thank you for having that flexibility to recognize that that was a concern last year, and that now it should be incumbent upon the parents and the child or the youth to make sure that they can correctly negotiate
that was a huge challenge, not only for NORD, but the Office of Workforce Development as well. That was a huge issue with the bank accounts.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all so much. We appreciate it. Thanks for the presentation.
And I'm sorry, let me just say this. Sometimes I guess got to do this. I just want to thank NORD. In my newsletter, we publish all of the things that NORD is doing, and nobody can say to me that there's nothing for youth to do in our city. You know how I feel about that. I'm being redundant because I'm speaking to the public sometimes. New Orleans Recreation Development Commission, NORD, has programs that include archery, include things that people don't even know, lessons, you can get lessons. It's not just basketball, football, and baseball. It's a lot more programs than that. And I just want to encourage our citizens to recognize that we as a city may have much more to do for youth than any other cities in our metropolitan area. Please, citizens, take advantage and recognize those resources are there, and that many people in our city who are very strong citizens of our city, who are very great contributors, have done work and participated in NORD programs, and that's made our city better. But I appreciate the choices and the selections that are available to our youth.
Thank you. And listen, thank you, council members, for continuously supporting NORD, especially Councilmember Jerusa as the budget chair for definitely supporting us and making sure that we will whole and we can continue to provide the services, because just to let you know how valuable the summer services is it hasn't been a month since we released the application for the teen career camps, and we have 485 out of 1,000 applications in hand already. Right. That lets you know that parents are paying attention and they're coming in right now to fill applications and to reserve those spots for their teams.
I also want to thank you for your selection of a young person who is going to be working at Sampson Playground, a Carver graduate, somebody familiar with that community. The community, the members that I've spoken to recently, as recently as today, are pleased with his appointment, and I know that he's going to do a good job. So I'm looking forward to seeing even more positive work coming out of Sampson.
Gotcha. Thank you.
In what district is Carver in?
Huh? District D. And actually, Carver is in the state quarterfinals or semifinals of basketball.
Yes.
5 years in a row.
Again.
5 years in a row. 2 championships in a
Again.
row, and they play tomorrow or Thursday.
You going?
And then, well, council meeting. I think that
Man, let's have a council meeting at the game.
That's right. Come on, let's go and cheer for Carver. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
very
We
much.
appreciate the presentation. All right, last but certainly not least, the budget reports for year end. And we know these are preliminary and not final, but we wanted to give the administration an opportunity to highlight some notes for us. All right, good morning.
Morning. Afternoon.
Yeah, just afternoon. Look, I think from our perspective, what we just want to know is, we still have to do the CAFR, the audit for year end. Is there anything trending for year end 23 that is cause of concern, and anything for 2024, at least from a economic perspective, that we need to know about?
No, things are very much, as far as the economy is concerned, as they were, the same concerns and the same risks. Just a note on final for 2023 is basically, what's posted in brass as far as what final for December right now is pre-accrual, but the accrual is going to be completed within the next week and a half. But I have an estimate of what that's going to result in. Basically, what's posted there, we're going to get an additional $45 to $50 million beyond that. Now, that's ahead of the forecast that we made for 2023, but what we need to remember is there's a lot of one-time revenue that was in there for 2023.
Right.
And the reality is, if we take that away, we're behind where we were in 22. So that's less. So that's something to keep in mind as we move forward.
Because of the one-time funding.
Because there's about $30 million of one-time money.
Right.
So that's really the biggest note that I have.
Okay. All right. Not seeing any other questions. Mr. White, do you want to talk about the judgment list again? And I know you had a comment card, but just wanted to make sure, in case you had an additional comment, that we're all here for it.
Thank you again for an opportunity to speak today. I was looking at the judgment fund balance it's on page 52, and it has a balance of about $1,100 as of December 31st. And I think that's positive if the money's being spent and judgments are being paid. As I mentioned earlier, when I spoke to the law department about paying the oldest judgments back in August of last year, they said that they would start paying the oldest judgments in the first quarter of this year. And there was an issue of uncertainty of funding. And my question specifically is the $2 million that is has been appropriated for FY24, is that available for the law department to pay judgments?
Yes.
It is. Okay, so that's very positive. It just seems like there's a communication issue there or something.
I mean, can I guess what happened is that, this is a guess, the CAO's office or finance, whoever prepared it, considers that money appropriated even if the checks have not been cut yet or they're in process. But let's wrap our arms around that as part of what I discussed earlier, because there seems to be some distinction between the money being appropriated for purposes of paper and then actually getting into the plaintiff's hands and the lawyer's hands.
Okay, I see. And the reason why I'm concerned about that is that there's a delay between when offers are made for judgments and actually paid. And back in November, the city attorney reported that they had made all these offers probably all the offers through those with final judgments of 2017. However, when I spoke to Dan McNamara, he said that they hadn't paid, even though offers have been extended, they hadn't paid those judgments. And I think he or maybe the law department was apprehensive about paying more judgments until those are paid. I guess specifically to my company's judgment, Municipal Administrative Services, we thought our judgment was going to be paid the first quarter of this year. That's what Dan reported back in August. And his comment made it seem uncertain if the Otis judgments would actually be paid at all this year. And
like I told you earlier, that is our quest to figure out and make it. We'll just make it as public as. But Mr. White, like, yeah. I know you are beyond frustrated, and you've been here many times. You're from Dallas. You're not here locally. You have to fly in every single time to talk about this. I share your frustration because we appropriated an additional $7 million to the judgment fund for 2023, and then the law department didn't spend some of the money before, and I can't remember if it was $2 to $4 million. So really, the judgment fund for 2023 was over 10, 12 to $14 million.
Yes.
And then we have another 2 right now for 2024. So I'm with you. We will continue to work with the CAO's office to make sure that is handled. And like I said, I think we are very keenly attuned to the idea that vendors are not necessarily being paid on time. Also, the judgments need to be handled timely. And what I'd like to do, what I always try and do first, is work with somebody and try and resolve it before we have to codify things and pass laws. But if it gets to that point, we're going to do that this year because we can't wait and have so much uncertainty for you. And look, my goal, as I said earlier, would be to wipe the judgment list out to the extent that we can this year, start tabula rasa going forward, and let's make sure the city doesn't get into that place if we can avoid it in the future.
Yes, I really appreciate that, Councilman Giarrusso. And, you know, unfortunately, we've done a lot of analysis, and I've provided you with that analysis. And we tied every payment that had been made to judgments. We've identified those judgments that had not been paid, that should be paid. And also we've identified the judgments from 1996 through 2005 that could be paid with the money that has currently been appropriated to pay judgments. So unless someone else looks at my math and my numbers and says it's not accurate, it's pretty straightforward. And you
Matt,
know,
as I'm sorry to interrupt you, but as I tell people, Matt's undefeated lifetime.
I understand.
All right. Okay. We're gonna continue. And Ms. Spears, obviously, I know you were in that meeting yesterday. We'll continue to press forward.
Just one final comment on it, just generally. We've researched this as well as what the state of Louisiana does in paying judgments, and they pay the principal.
Right.
You know, and if a straightforward way is if the judgment list is accurate, the principal's right there on the judgment list. Finance department could pay it from the judgment list. I mean, it wouldn't be as onerous if there was a more straightforward way to do it. Again, thank you for your patience.
Thank you so much. All right. I think we may have lost quorum, but we'll stand adjourned. Thank you for everybody for being here today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you at the REC next week.